All right, at this time, we will call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Anson.
Here.
Trustee Doro.
Here.
Trustee Meyers.
Here.
Trustee Landwehr.
Here.
Trustee Swenson.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager. Here. President Vanderstel.
Here. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, it'll be led by Trustee Myers.
I'm not going to read it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, it's our period for public comments. If anybody has any public comments for items that are not on the agenda, any items that are on the agenda, you can come and speak to when those items come up. Seeing as there are no public comments, we will begin with our first item on the agenda, which is a consideration of a motion to approve the village board minutes from the March 11th, 2019 meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 11th meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Did anybody have discussion on that? I'm sorry, I went quick on that. No, we're good. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payments in the amount of $233,496.24.
I move we pay the bills for $233,496.
I second it.
and 24 cents.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda, we have consideration of actions related to the licenses and permits. For this, we have a street use permit for a large-scale event. The event is the Swallow Educational Foundation 5K Run. This is May 18th, 2019. That's the date that this is requested for, from 8 to 10 a.m. Police and Fire Chief have reviewed the application.
You get 2 hours to run 5 kilometers.
I so move we approve it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve that license. Any discussion?
How many of us are going to be doing this?
Are going to be doing,
The run.
I do
Oh,
not
wow,
know what the
kids.
count is on how many they
I meant us.
Oh,
Are you going to be out there?
I do not have March 18th slated away on my calendar yet. I could not, my calendar isn't in front of
I
me.
think Donna.
If I do, we have
Okay.
to have Dave, ask Dave if he's going to have an extra ambulance
Yeah,
available.
he could follow.
Yeah.
I'll ride with him. See?
Okay, just teasing. Go ahead. Sure.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The license is granted. That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is items that are related to proposed rezoning of the property at 345 Cottonwood Avenue. As you'll see in the memo that you received, it was requested that this did go through the Plan Commission. It has been forwarded to the board to set the public, or to open the public hearing was the request. And, but it will be held open at the request of the requesting party.
Petitioner, yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to add on that?
No. Well, the intent would be, the Plan Commission tabled that matter until its April meeting, at which point it would expect to be able to make a recommendation to the village board. So the hope is that you'll open and then just continue the public hearing until that date.
Right, so that public hearing will stay open until the April 22nd meeting. All right, so at this time, I will open the public hearing. If anybody is here that'd like to speak to that, you're more than welcome.
It's spring break right now and she's not in town.
I think that's why she wanted to table.
That is right.
No, I know, that's why we're doing that.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to speak on it, they can. No takers? Public hearing's open, but at this time, it doesn't appear we have anybody that wants to speak. We've done all that we were asked to do by the Plan Commission, so we will move to the next item on the agenda. Items referred from the March 18th Plan Commission meeting. We have a consideration of a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the homegrown farms related to the operation of a temporary retail flower hut.
I so move that we approve this motion and extend it for a total of 5 years.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this conditional use permit for that temporary flower hut. Discussion.
And extending it for 5 years, sir.
Yes, the 5 years is that's the time frame.
So that makes them go, they gotta put that up for 5 years then too, huh?
Well, it doesn't mean that they have to put it up, but it means they're okay to put it up
That
in
makes-
that conditional
that makes
use
sense.
permit. Typically, that's the time frame
Because
of
they
this
always
type of
come in,
conditional
yeah.
use permit.
10, right? Okay, just making sure.
We're good? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. That will be 5 years. They'll have that conditional use permit. The next item on the agenda is review and consideration of actions and items related to the Glen at Overlook Trails, a condominium development on the property located at and adjacent to N56 W28528 County Highway K, Lisbon Road.
So this matter obviously has been around for quite some time. There have been a lot of conversations about this. Most recently, the Plan Commission at its meeting on just this past week, May 18 rather, March 18, yeah, I know the date, met and reviewed the final pieces of, I'll call it the puzzle. The last item for approval is the Planned Unit Development Agreement. And there are several attachments to that agreement that the Plan Commission needed one last look at and the Village Board needed one last look at. And so the Plan Commission did that and made their recommendations a week ago. They have recommended the landscaping plan and in particular the street tree plan. They have recommended approval on the final revised preliminary condominium plat. They had some conversations about the pathway system in the subdivision and made requests for a provision to extend that into neighboring properties, specifically in the resource area, the natural resource area, the woods. They asked that be extended to the north. They also asked for extensions or provisions for extensions toward Mary Hill to the west and to the east toward the adjoining properties that are owned by other developers and other individuals. The intent there, of course, is to make sure that there are continuous pathways as provided for in the village's various planning documents. Additionally, they reviewed the plan for public street lighting and made a request to modify that slightly to have street lights at every one of the intersections. Additionally, the developer is requiring as part of the condominium that each of the owners would have a small, I'll call it a coach light at the end of their driveway as well. So the Plan Commission was satisfied with that plan. They looked at the revised site plan and recommended that be approved with the condition that that plan reflect a note that at least 12 of the units will have side load garages. There are a variety of unit types in the condominium development that will come back, be reviewed by the Plan Commission this summer sometime, but the anticipation is that ultimately at least 12 will have side load garages. So in the end, the Plan Commission was satisfied with the documents that were attached to the Planned Unit Development Agreement, the easements and the various other pieces, and has recommended approval to the Village Board of the overall Planned Unit Development Agreement.
In the natural area, they're going to maintain the walkways and the paths through there?
The condominium association would maintain those.
And we're not going to be ever involved in having to put in benches or any kind of apparatuses in there?
Well, never say never, but no, it's not that. It is not our intent. We do have an easement that the village could go in and maintain if it felt it needed to, in particular on the paved paths, but it needed to, it could go in on behalf of the public because there are some public access easements over all of that.
And then we charge the condominium
That
association
would be the
for that?
intent, yep.
But we put in
described
benches,
You know,
we put in benches.
If I could just add to that point, what I want to add is that if as we know, and even with this project, we ran into it, there's times where 10 years ago something was planned that we end up tweaking, okay? If in 10 years, the developer has built a development that looks beautiful, and obviously that developer is running their business, this is now being run by the homeowners association or the condominium association, there's nothing that stops them from coming to the village and asking them for something, but the current board, whoever's on the board at that time, the board would say yay or nay. So we're not putting something in that says that they can never ask, but at this time, there's no intention of that. It's the way it is presented in front of you on this sheet.
What I'm saying, we put benches in over there off of Cottonwood Avenue on that little pathway. They requested we put 2 of them in it.
Right.
And the village is always, it was up to the board whether they wanted
But
to.
currently,
put it in.
the developer has not requested any such thing.
One question, now with the lights, and I never thought of it until now, when they gotta have a light out in the front of their house on, is that gonna be hooked up to the electric company so it automatically?
Nope.
See, that was where Hartbridge,
The idea there is that it's going to help with the street lighting. Keep in mind, there's already
I know,
street
I
lights that are hooked up to We Energies at that property. And
At the
they're-
intersections.
yeah, at the intersections. So there will be street lighting there, like there is at most of the various other parts of the village, not including downtown. Okay, so like Hartridge, that's what you have, is at the intersections. There are some others. But those are at the end of the driveways because the assumption there is 60 or 70% of them are gonna be on all the time. There's gonna be enough, there's gonna be lighting and it adds to the lighting of the
What I was getting at,
streets.
Hartbridge was built that way, that they had to put them on.
Mm-hmm.
Some put them on, some didn't.
Sure.
And then they wanted the village to enforce it, which was the condominium. But now Sanctuary got them on automatically.
Right,
So
so,
that's why I don't care whether they do.
No, I
or
know,
they
and that's, I wanna explain it.
Yeah.
The request was made to the developer that it be included in the project, that each one would have that, as you alluded to, a coach light, or it's a
Yeah.
pole with a
No, I
light on
can-
top of
yeah.
it. It's gonna be up to this condo association, if they wanna demand that it stays on, the Village of Hartland at this time, or at least not in our PUD agreement, is demanding.
so actually, the version of the condominium declarations, and the owner of the company is here, he can verify this, Matt. The current version, or the version of the condo declarations that's attached to the PUD agreement, and a part of the PUD agreement by extension, does call out that each of the individual driveways would have the coach light on a dusk to dawn sensor.
Okay, that's what I was,
So the condominium's rules provide for that in the version that's attached to the PUD agreement.
because all I was saying, that's what I asked, because there was a lot of feelings and it came down with Hartridge, and that's when they didn't do it.
And it's
so
billed to each
I was just
individual,
curious.
correct?
Correct, and that's why
Part
I'm
of their
staying away
electric
from it, because the village isn't involved in that.
Yep.
Two questions.
It's the same as Sanctuary,
Yeah,
The street lighting that the village pays for,
yes.
yeah.
are we going to be able to use LED lights? Or get stuck with whatever Wisconsin Energy?
Whatever they put out.
Well, we do have some authority there, but the oddity about LED lights and We Energies and what they have gotten approved by the PSC, the Public Service Commission, is that in round numbers, I will tell you that a regular street light, whatever that
Yeah.
is, high pressure sodium, I forget what anymore, is about $15 a month. An LED is about $18 a month.
Really?
Yep, all of us are gonna look surprised.
Not me.
I agree, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So it actually costs us more if we go to LED.
Okay.
To tell you why, the reason for that is that it sounds great to go with LED, because you're gonna save money on your electric. They're gonna get your money out of you either way. And that's nope, that is the real truth of
Yeah,
it.
that's-
If you
that's
wanna save
probably
electricity, they're gonna get their money out of you. If you wanna spend the money on the electricity, then you'll pay
Okay.
that bill and they'll get it through the electric bill.
Now, this may have changed since I've been off the plan commission, but didn't we have at one point on the, development plan, a park up in that area?
That was back when it was,
Houses.
well, much
the-
bigger area.
The comprehensive plan does talk about that area being, or there being a public recreation facility or recreation area up there. I think ultimately what the plan commission decided to go with is the natural resource area would be publicly accessible. So it is a passive use recreation area,
But not the,
So there isn't
Play
any
areas.
designated
correct.
future park?
Everyone from Heartland can walk through those woods.
So the woods are available, but as
Yeah.
trustee Walshager is pointing out, not the, refer to them as play facilities associated with the condo. So pickleball, tennis, whatever they put in.
I just came up with something that I completely forgot at the other meeting. Number one, reflective street signs. And number two, if they're gonna have the lights at each house, are the addresses for each property, I'm going, cause Mary Hill, you don't know where to look for an address. Correct, chief? It's very hard, you don't know where to look for an address, and it's not always lit. So are the addresses going to be on the same place on the buildings by chance?
If I could interject
Okay.
here, if I could. Any address that can't be seen from the road
It can be if you know where to look, but they're all over.
If it cannot be seen and it's not extremely visible,
Yeah?
it's wrong, and it's on the homeowner. And I'm gonna say that for the entire village. It is our ordinance. Anybody that doesn't have it, it has nothing to do with the village, and they will be held, this condominium will be held to the same standard. Anybody that, I had it on my home, it was one of those old bronze numbers.
Yeah.
You could barely
Well,
see
the
it. I
ours
took
are
them and spray
carved in
painted them white, put
concrete
them,
and you can't see them.
that's, and that, needs to be reflective, that's wrong on the home,
house.
that's on the homeowner.
What about though, the street signs themselves will be reflective?
Well,
Absolutely.
the street signs will be the village's standard. Some subdivisions around the 2000s were not forced to do that.
need
But they are the current standard, so
Okay.
we would tell them what to order, or we would order them at their expense, and they would be installed. As for addressing, we'll flag that kind of as an issue. We'll make sure that we pay attention to that. The village code does say that the address either has to be adjacent to the front door or over the garage door.
Yep.
And so sometimes we were apparently
Even
less.
in the other subdivisions?
That's been the village code for a long time.
It's in the village code. Anybody that doesn't have it, they are out of compliance.
Cause we
They
had,
may not
know that.
enforce it, but they're out of compliance.
Because the town, the town of Merton went and put up the ugly signs, but
Right.
you at least know where to look for everybody's address.
Yep, and Mary Hill was the poster child for the problem. I understand.
Thank you.
It was. I mean, we all remember seeing that in the paper. They
Yeah.
went through Mary Hill and sort of reminded us how difficult it was. But nonetheless, that is the requirement, and now that you've raised it as an issue, we'll try to pay attention to that and make sure that the developer understands that when they're addressing buildings, that's how they're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Putting it in a uniform
I just
location.
forgot to ask at the meeting.
just
I
for a
wanted-
little information, before, there was a junior chamber of commerce in Hartland.
Mm-hmm.
And they put up the signs on the buildings because everybody just put up a number.
Mm-hmm.
When I first moved in where I was, you just had a number and they stuck it on, so I could have 251, the guy over there had 362. And that took the junior chamber of commerce over a year, they had to go to the state, and every so many feet is got a number.
Yeah, and if you
Well,
look in our
that's a
municipal
house
code,
right
we have a
in there.
grid system now, and it
Yeah.
is very distinct on what numbers you get now. Obviously, you have a certain side of the road has evens, another side of the road has
Yeah.
odds. It's north is even, south is odds.
Yeah, so
They have it all
Hartland-
worked out with a
Yeah,
grid
'cause Hartland
system.
never had that before, they just hung up a number.
Well, times have
We
changed,
also used to
but
have
yeah.
this route too.
So, those are my comments in terms of changes there. If the board unless the board has other questions, I would suggest that it would be appropriate, the motion would be to approve the final PUD agreement.
I moved, I make a motion to approve the final PD.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the final PUD agreement. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. If the developer would like to come and say anything, that'd be great. Matt Newman, sorry,
yeah,
I don't mean to
very
refer to
brief.
you as the developer, but the people out there need to know.
That's okay. Matt Newman, Newman Companies. We appreciate the opportunity. I think I made a comment earlier in the week. This is, I think, officially 24 months, maybe 25 months since we started this endeavor. And so we're excited about the opportunity to get to this point. We appreciate the support. There was obviously a lot of conversation on this project. There were a lot of what I consider complicated factors to bringing a site like this to fruition. I know it's our first opportunity to bring a project officially to completion here in the village of Hartland, and we look forward to that opportunity. And we plan to be breaking ground in May, hopefully. We still have some final engineering to get signed off on, but we plan to break ground in May. There's tenants in the home, I think, that'll be moving out by the end of April. So if anything, in May, you'll probably see that home start to get removed, probably some tree clearing and things like that in the areas where we have to build the roads and build the stormwater ponds. But we plan to be actually under construction of homes, have the roads paved by the fall, and have homes under construction, condos, we call them homes, by sometime in the early fall is our hope. So if the weather cooperates, that's the plan.
In year 12,
What's that?
homes, you said 20, when do you say you have
This
homes?
Oh, we hope in the fall to start
Yeah,
homes, and we
okay,
hope
that's what I
that
thought.
residents will move in the spring, yes, so. We appreciate the opportunity, and it's been a long time coming, but we're looking forward to getting started, so we thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
man.
being patient. I think that it was kind of a testament of people working together, how this whole project came to be. There was some things, there was a lot of times that there was just a lot of discussing, sometimes even times where we all got irritated. I mean, all of us on both sides, but I do got to commend you for being able to work, especially like with Mr. Gebhard, not having to, even though having that option, not having to force an eminent domain situation, being able to go to the table, communicate, and work those things out. And
This was a very difficult site. I mean, for access reasons, the hill on Highway K, the traffic in general in that area, the concerns of Mary Hill. I mean, it had the whole plethora of opportunities for failure, so.
Yeah.
We're. Well, we say if it was easy, everyone would do it, so there's nice barriers to entry in our industry. But anyway, thank you, we look forward to getting started.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So you got Mondays off now, huh?
My kids to bed tonight.
Thank you, Matt.
Gotcha.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have discussion regarding paving and other improvements to the alley and pedestrian way between Palmer's and Silver Leash.
So if I might, as a reminder, so this item has been around for quite some time, and most recently it was included as part of the village's annual paving project, but that portion was pulled out essentially at the owner's request in the area there. So just by way of a little bit of history, this project, as I said, has been around for a while, probably since the early 2000s. And was part of some downtown planning projects that were done. And ultimately, in around 2010, 2011, we created some documents to try to move the project forward. One of the things that I discovered after the last time we met, after the last time the village board met, and we actually rejected the project for probably the second year in a row, and we were coming back to it again to try and see what we could do to move it ahead. I did some digging back in the files, and I did find some material that I thought was kind of interesting. It appears as though at one point in the conversation, and I don't know at what level this went, so at least it was my predecessor, but at least at one time in the conversation, there was discussion about the village perhaps absorbing all of the cost associated with repaving the alleyway. Just by way as an aside, for those who don't know, this is the alleyway that runs by Palmer's and connects to the bridge that leads over the Bark River into the parking lot I refer to as the North Avenue parking lot or behind Senior Tomas. The village has an easement there and shares the maintenance costs three ways with the owners. So for example, snow removal and those kinds of things, we pay a third of those costs. The alley is actually on the Palmer's property, but it is shared by Palmer's and Silverleash, and as I mentioned, the village. At any rate, in the discussion we had 2 weeks ago, and prior to that with the owners, the paperwork from the village said that we would split that cost three ways, and it was a fairly significant dollar amount. Nonetheless, as I said, those historic files seem to suggest that the village was willing to take that cost on in its entirety, which would certainly be more palatable for the owners, and provide the village with a good pedestrian way that's part of the Ice Age Trail is through the village, and of course, as I mentioned, that access to the parking lot. So, the hope is that the village board can have a conversation and determine whether that's a direction it wants to go. I also put on I also noted in my memo that if the village was interested in moving a little bit, helping to move the project forward as well, it could finance the whole thing for the owners, and at some rate, have them repay it over time. So those are a couple of options for trying to move it forward. The design that we have is the one that is essentially historic. As I said, it was the one that was originally created in about 2005 or so, and then finally designed in 2011, and has just been updated by current staff and the village engineer for bidding purposes. That's kind of where we're at. The goal of the conversation, I think Trustee Meyers asked for it to come back on the agenda. I think the goal was to try and talk about how we might move it forward. So.
See, and you're right when that was, because Ice Age Trail came up, and people were, it's too dark at night. And they get down there, and even Palmer was gonna, when we talked to him, or that was talked about, he was gonna do something with the painting on the side to make it so you weren't looking like you're
Right.
going down some old alley.
And with it, when Administrator Cox found this, so I ended up going and meeting with him, and he showed it to me. The whole cost of the alley was, or at least it appears that the indication of the board at that time was telling this business, we're gonna cover the alleyway, and they were gonna do the other, the owners were gonna cover both of their sides. And the cost there, the tough thing with this, as I've said, and our administrator agrees, the costs have gone up so much. So it's like you almost feel bad because it was borderline promised to them and then the project didn't get done. But this is going back to 11. I mean, we had a different president at the time. We had a different administrator at the time, on and on and on. So what we have to decide is, are we open to that, or do we want to just hold the proper, kind of switch it up, which I feel is not the most fair way of doing things, especially when you have good, well-maintained and good-running businesses. And I will add to this, because it's part of the discussion, and I'm sure that administrator will back me up on this. On that property, 2 lights were put on the side, and there was a street light that was put in the back. That was even part of when Dave found this document from 2011 and went back into the historical files, let's call them. There was 10,000 in there that, I don't know if that's what the cost was that it cost them, but on that sheet, that's what it showed. Obviously, any trustee that wants to see that can contact the administrator to get it. But there definitely seemed to be an intention on the board to have the village take more of the brunt of that storm. And I
Well,
think that
the
we're in
village-
agreement on
yeah.
that. I think that's the
And
same.
the village wanted to get that alley lit up and cleaned out so people would walk down it.
Right, so I think what the best thing that we could do, I'm gonna suggest, the best thing that we could do is get a sit-down meeting with those owners to see what's good for them, to find out if Dave could have a meeting with them, and we can find out if they're even open to that option where we can have, let's say, whatever, I don't know what you guys feel is appropriate, but a 3-year or 4-year or 5-year broken out special assessment, because those businesses have to take that money out of their budgets and they have to pay us, and it's a hefty chunk. But are we open to doing that? And would we then like Administrator Cox to reach out to them to let them know we've kind of had a change, we found some new information, and allow him to go forward with what he's kind of presented to
What's
us?
the total cost of the whole thing?
Once he sits down with them, I think he could.
So the
bring it
last bid
forward
we
better.
had was, the total cost was $71,000.
Is that asphalt or concrete?
That's concrete down the middle and asphalt on the sides.
But we've got stamped concrete on here, Dave.
We do.
We need to take that out.
See, and that should be
There
fixed.
is nowhere, if you drive around anywhere in southeast Wisconsin and look at anything that was stamped,
It
that
doesn't
is gonna
last.
be salted, plowed, used as any type of road, it doesn't last. And to pay the extra money for stamped concrete on a roadway is stealing from the taxpayers, because it's useless. It's not gonna last. It looks good for about a year, if that. One winter hits it and it starts to crack, fade, it gets destroyed. So why waste the money for stamped?
Well, we can take the stamping can be
But that's a
taken out
huge
of
part
it.
of the cost, Jeff.
No, I know, I'm saying that's originally how the
Yeah.
plan was. That can be talked about.
We should really redesign this and get it
Should be fixed.
71,000 for that area. I was down there and looked at this, and that is ridiculous
Yeah.
for a number.
That's everything, just so you know. That's
I
the-
know.
Side-
Dave.
Middle
the
is
parking
the side.
I
lot
did
too
this
on
for a
both
living,
sides.
and that is
One at a time.
absolutely ridiculous.
Well, we did get 3 bids on it, and that's the lowest bid we got. I'm just saying,
I'm just saying, for what this is, that is absolutely ridiculous. If I was a taxpayer, I'd be screaming if we okayed that.
But how else do we fix it?
We need to redesign this and make it first feasible. It won't last.
Okay?
If,
We do have to take one step at a time here, though.
So I think
We
that's,
have found historical documents, so in a sense, we're kind of starting over. Do we want to allow the administrator to sit down with the property owners with the newfound information where the village is actually going to be doing the alleyway and sit down and talk about how they want to do that? The business owners may say they want to pay for it. Do we want to allow that?
I would like, if Jeff has such good knowledge of some of this, maybe he should be in on that meeting. Trustee Anderson.
Whoever wants to go to the meeting can go to the meeting.
I don't think it's about the concrete right now, the stamping of that. It's
That's
how
what I'm
we're
trying to
gonna
get on. I
get
think
the
at one
funding
step
for
at a
this and how involved. Right, I see.
there's a big difference between $71,000 and $30,000.
No, I agree with you.
So I think we should figure out what we're gonna do, get a price, and then approach the businesses with it. Because if we approach the businesses and they ask, well, how much is it gonna cost and what's our share gonna be, and we go, well, we don't know because we haven't figured it out yet, we're gonna look like idiots.
Okay, so you want it to be repriced without stamped concrete in the long ways, but the brick,
Well, the whole, it
The
needs
brick-
to be, like over here, they want dumpsters, where the dumpsters are near the dumpster pad.
Yeah.
Okay? So anytime you got a transition between the asphalt and the concrete with a garbage truck driving over it once a week, you're gonna have problems.
okay?
And
Okay.
delivery trucks are down there too, you know.
But the garbage trucks are the biggest problem because they're heavy, and they're gonna wreck it. When you've got a plow going down here and you're gonna salt it, all that concrete there that's stamped is gonna get ruined.
No, right.
So I think that we should design it to where, yes, it's gotta look nice, but it's gotta be functional and last.
Okay, so you'd like,
So I'd like to work on redesigning
you
the
want just
whole-
regular concrete,
Yeah.
not stamped?
No,
Concrete
not
for the
stamped.
whole thing.
Not even pads?
We pay for the path and they pay for each
No, because
side.
anytime you break
And
that
what?
up, there should be a concrete strip that's, 6, 7 inches thick at least, going from the sidewalk right to the dumpsters.
Okay,
And then off of that, you could break a little walkway or something,
Mm-hmm.
but it should be regular concrete. And then if we want to do asphalt on either side, fine. Or do the whole thing in asphalt and pave it at,
we as a board can do, I mean, we can choose to have it all done in concrete. I think the idea of having it done in a more artistic fashion was the thought process. Now, you having a vast knowledge of concrete are saying that it wouldn't work. The idea was it's leading up to our downtown. It's coming from our municipal
I
lot.
agree.
This is what's, but if you,
But-
if the board wants, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
if we're not going to allow traffic on it, car traffic, yeah, then we can do something like that. But you got to remember that's a hill, stamped concrete, slippery.
Yep,
So every year it would have to be sealed with something. They call it shark's tooth,
right,
where they spray it on with the sealer to make
Yep.
it so it's not slippery.
Right.
On a hill, application. But then you're not going to be able to put dumpsters down there or cars because that's all going to wear off.
right.
And then there's maintenance on it. So I say get rid of the stamped, forget about how it looks right now, and let's make it functional, unless we're gonna turn it into only a walking path.
Okay,
I mean, what happened to all the crosswalks that we had etched in the asphalt? I mean, that was the stupidest idea in the world.
That didn't work.
That was a complete waste of taxpayers' money to have that done.
right. I mean, it
And-
worked
and
in the
this
beginning,
be
but
the
then it
same
wears
thing.
away.
And I just want all of you, just drive around and look at any stamped concrete that's in a roadway. It's all junk.
I think
So-
everyone's in agreement of that. We just.
I think what I hear what's being said. Let's have, would you, have Mike get bids for just straight concrete? This will prolong it.
Sure.
And we're also, obviously, I think that the
can price
board would
that
be
out.
okay of, at least we have to find out from these.
Right.
We need to get to these businesses. They're sitting and
Right.
waiting. The administrator sent a very nice letter to them. I would like to allow him to begin talking with them to at least find out, setting up a meeting with them like we had talked about, unless the board's against that.
But get a
I
figure
think
so that you
that's-
can
No, I
go
kn-
like he says.
This is just talking though. If they say, no, I don't want an assessment, well, then we know. We're still gonna get the figure. That's what I'm saying. He's going to get a figure, but that's gonna take a few
Okay.
months.
So just asked if they want an assessment.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
generally, do you,
Okay.
if we
Right.
came to you with a plan,
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
if we put it that way, if we came to you with a plan, would you be willing to accept an assessment?
Right.
For 4 or 5 years?
right. But they have to be okay with
Right.
the assessed amount. But-
Well, then they're gonna ask the amount.
Well, he's
But,
gonna say
yeah.
he's working on it.
I guess,
That's-
Yeah.
he's
I-
got
I'm
the
trying to make
bids.
this not
Bids
more
takes
complicated.
time.
I'm just saying, can they discuss? That's all I'm saying. If you want them to not to discuss until they have a bid, we'll tell the administrator not to discuss. We
No, I
have
think
businesses
we
that are
should.
sitting, have been waiting since 2011, and I
Right.
don't want to make them wait a day more. But if you
We-
want to wait
we
for the
prom-
bid, wait
we
for the bid.
promised that.
I will let Palmer's know you are not allowed to
Thank you.
talk to them until the bid's.
The
disagree.
thing
Yes,
is,
that's true.
there's one goal. The thing that the village is responsible for is that path of the Ice Age Trail. And that's here, it goes through there. Now, if somebody's got a piece of property that's not village property, I have kind of a problem of us paying for a business's property covering it. Either way, all we want is the Ice Age Trail, and, put that down the middle, do it with whatever concrete that's gonna last forever, And let's not worry about, but the businesses, if they don't want to partake in it, fine. But let's us provide the service of the Ice Age Trail. Let's make that go down there. And, I mean, we've been dinking around with this thing since I was 3, I think. Well, Dick was 3.
That's what I'm saying, 2001.
You know, the Ice Age Trail is just what we're responsible for. The rest of the stuff doesn't mean anything, and I think it's great that Jeff can tell us, about some suggestions about that, because I just want that doggone walkway, a path down there that's gonna be good, that people can walk, they're gonna come to Hartland, they're gonna walk through and say, this is really great. I don't know, they say, hey, look, that's really nice, they put that asphalt underneath that garbage thing over there, but it smells bad. Yeah, so-
If it's gonna ruin, as Jeff just explained, if it's gonna ruin the driveway and all that by not doing it all in one cohesive amount, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
And
well-
we made a promise to the businesses, we talked with the businesses, we owe the businesses the respect of honoring what we brought to the table so
Right.
many years ago that hasn't been taken care of. We need to have Dave sit down with them, explain how we're moving ahead with it, and that we will be getting new bids out on it without this, now that we've got a new recommendation, without the stamping of it, and moving ahead that way.
Right.
See, when
But
that
we're
was
still-
planned, the Ice Age Trail was planned to go along the other building, go behind, not behind Palmer's, but it was supposed to go along to where Horton.
That other trail.
Yeah, off of, the avenue and right straight in between the savings and loan, down around that way and come around the back. Cause we didn't wanna go through that alley because, at that time. Because how, it was too dark and it's too cruddy and you're walking around with garbage cans and all. But then that disappeared when the Ice Age, when it disappeared, it went anywhere.
So we need to get a new bids on the concrete. And at some point, we gotta have a meeting with the business owners to let them know we're kind of recalculating how they'll be
That's
charged.
the way they should have done it.
So what I would propose to do is meet with the owners. We'll revise and get an estimate on taking out the stamped concrete nodes that are there. The rest of it is just colored concrete, but regardless, we can get a revised estimate just to turn it into gray, if you will. And
I won't be around, so.
sit down with the owners at that point and talk about the things on the side, how this all can coordinate into one project so that it gets done at the same time so that we don't have to have multiple activities down there. Whether it's we do a piece in the middle and then they come back later and do the rest. I think it's better if we try to get it as one project. So
Right,
if
and
the
I
board-
don't know if you agree, Jeff, but I also think, one thing is if we put that in, and all of a sudden they hire their own company and they're
Yeah.
butting up against our stuff.
They're
that
gonna
I
wreck what
don't,
we put in.
Right.
right, that worries me, as opposed to they're already down there, if we can figure out a way to make it all work, so. I would propose that or make a motion that the board would allow, the administrator to sit down and let the property owners know what we're doing, and that we are going to get other bids that are just straight concrete without the stamping. The coloring, I think, is okay to stay, but not stamped concrete.
It's a waste of money.
We'll
It
get both
really
ways,
is.
non-colored and colored,
Okay.
if you could.
I'll
But so-
second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The administrator can let the property owners know what's going on, that we're coming up with new calculations, that we're trying to get this all in one shot. And that we are getting new bids with straight gray concrete with also a bid for gray concrete in most areas, but colored concrete in some. Any discussion on that?
See, and only going back to colored concrete, that's poured in the concrete. That isn't stamped on there.
No, I know.
You know, so
I know.
whatever you wanna do with color.
Yep, well, we're gonna get both, and then the
Yeah.
board will be able to decide.
Outside of cost.
We'll get both bids, and then, we can decide, because if there's a, any other discussion on that? Obviously, again, this is not a motion to do it, it's just to get the bids and let the property owners know what's going on so that they feel more at ease, because it's up in the air for them. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, so you'll get hold of the property owners and then, try to see what they might not even have to go back out there for the bids. They already have the measurement, the companies that did that. Okay, next item, we have a consideration of a motion to approve the Stormwater Management Program Annual Report to the DNR.
So this is an annual requirement of the village. We have to submit to the DNR a report that describes the current status of our stormwater system, which of course is all the stuff in the curbs and the inlets, a number of ponds, and then ultimately we have to talk about enforcement actions if we've had to have them as things effluent out into the river or our ultimate receiving bodies, which of course are generally the Bark River. It also describes our education activities that we've done, which are done in coordination with Waukesha County and done regionally that way. It also describes how much, or rather what other programs we have. So we describe our leaf collection program, we describe our catch basin cleaning program, street sweeping, et cetera, et cetera. So it basically is a giant description of what we do annually to treat stormwater, to catch and remove any kind of sediments or trash or what have you that goes into them. As I noted in the, or as Mike rather noted in the memo to the, it's a fire pager, in the memo to the board, he did note something interesting, and I found it interesting as well. Through our street sweeping program and our catch basin cleaning program, the village pulls 2.5 tons per mile of sediment out of the system before it gets into the Bark River. We're learning a lot of interesting information about sediment and how it's being handled better, not only through our stormwater collection program, street sweeping, et cetera, but also through our catch basins, our stormwater retention basins that get put in during subdivision constructions. We're noticing that there's a continued decrease in the amount of sediment that gets into the pond at Nixon Park. And we're looking at what that might be attributable, and we're beginning to speculate that it could have something to do with the changes in regulation and then changes in the way subdivisions get constructed and the way we handle waste these days, or sediment these days. So interesting information that's coming out, but nonetheless, it's an annual report that we have to distribute to the DNR under our permit requirements. I think Trustee Ann has a question.
Trustee Walshliger.
You looked like you had a question. You were hanging on every word I was saying, so.
It's just an issue I've had before I was on the board, and a question, and we collect 3,000 tons of leaves, but those are all put in the street, which until they get picked up can wash down into the gutter system and clog that up and whatever. Is there a reason we don't put that, I forgot what the term is, between the sidewalk and the street, that grass area?
The Parkway, yeah.
And put it, I know a lot of municipalities, and I believe Madison is one of them, that makes it mandatory. It cannot be in the street to keep it out of our water systems.
Right.
Is there a reason we don't do that?
I think it's really a catch-22. Because of the way we do some of that collection, with essentially an end loader at times, we don't want that on the Parkway, obviously, because if we did, we'd take the sod with it.
Okay,
Normally, we do it via vac,
okay.
and which of course would work fine on the Parkway. I think that's been the issue. I understand what you're saying, and we have had that conversation as a staff. Is there a better way to do that? Interestingly, we're starting to get some credit for that, so it's a program that I think will last into time, so we have to make sure that we're doing it as well as we can. I know it's been a frustration of yours. I've heard that before from you. We'll have to keep looking at that.
Well,
I
if
think
it's not affecting the river and it's not clogging things up, then it's not an issue. I just don't see how it cannot clog up those vents or
If we get the
things.
inlets, if we get a
Inlets.
rain event during that time, you're right. Some of the leaves travel and they get hooked up on the inlets. The other side of that equation is sometimes they'll get in, they'll settle into those catch basins that we have. There's a 2-foot crock in every one of those inlets, and they'll get weighted down enough, they'll get heavy enough by absorbing water that they will drop into those. That becomes a big part of what we pull out of the catch basins when we go through and vacuum those out.
okay. How often
But
is
of
that
course,
done?
pardon me?
How often is that done, that they're
That's
vacuumed out?
monthly. I mean, not every catch basin every month, but that gets done monthly, that gets done through the village. I forget how many times it gets
Okay.
done.
And you got trees in between.
No doubt some of them do get out to the Bark River.
Oh,
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the annual program. I know it's riveting. It's a lot of data about just activities that we undertake. And, you know, it tells you that we've got X number of outlets into the Bark River and
I think we do a better job than a lot of other communities in keeping the pollution
I
down,
do
the
too.
sediment down, and I think that's really important too.
We do a great job.
See,
Extremely
they pick them
important.
up right away. They're not there. I mean, they come around, what is it, once a week or?
They're on it pretty good.
They're on it
Yeah.
pretty quick.
I mean, at most you go a week,
Yeah.
and then that's if you put them out the day after they've gone through,
Yeah, then they're.
which I will admit I'm.
so during the leaf collection program, we have two vac trucks that go out. And when it's heavy, when we get into the heaviest part of that, that's when we end up having to send a loader out, and that sort of changes the dynamic a little bit, so. It's in that heavier season.
I think too, Dave, when we go out to clean the streets, like we clean the streets right after
Yeah.
the snow is,
Yep.
gone or almost gone. And that's super important because, number one, we're doing it before the heavy rains. And as soon as the heavy rains hit, then all that ends up in the catch basins in the Bark River. So
Right.
to get out there early like we do and get it done, that's phenomenal. We're on top of the game,
And as was alluded to, we're doing something right,
right?
because 3 tons less material is
Yeah, that's a
flowing
lot.
into the Bark River than has been before. So
Right.
obviously, we're doing something right. And to the point that you had brought up, I do agree with you that there has to be some more. That number is not, I don't believe that number reflects just because of putting them in the street. You're talking all those leaves that blow around from our parks. We have a ton of parks. We have Nixon Park where leaves can blow, or even the schools. But I mean, there's leaves that are gonna be in the street, even if someone didn't rake them. All those that are in the curbs and stuff like that, they're going to be there. I believe that when they're piled up, you would find, I mean, when a car drives by, they'll pull some leaves off, but a loose leaf hanging in the street is gonna get pulled away a lot faster. I know this is gonna sound odd, than them all being piled up, because they do mat together. After about 48 hours, those leaves have matted down. So I don't think that the 3 tons is reflective of, I don't know what the study would be, but I have a feeling it would be more like 1 ton is because of piling the leaves in the street, and 2 tons may be just normal leaves that are gonna get in there, even the leaves that are hanging over those, the river. You know what I mean? up by
Obviously, we have no
Centennial
way of
Park.
knowing.
Right.
Right.
Speaking of
can start
leaves,
tracking
when they're
them.
gonna start that, has there been a date set?
No, once we get closer to fall, we
Okay,
will.
I was just,
I think we'll have brush pickup coming up soon, but.
Brush pickup
Yeah.
is scheduled for the 9th. Oh, I can't look the DPW. I'm flying solo.
Everybody's
I
gone.
want to say it's the 9th of April is when we start.
Keep an eye on the website.
Keep an eye on the website or Hartland happening.
Or call the village administrator, he'd be happy to tell you.
We're discussing a lot about this, and we should do that and do this, and, yeah, every year we've had the DPW complete this report, and we come back with A's, because we're doing an outstanding job. And so for us to say, pick at this and this and this, doesn't really mean, because our guys are doing a hell of a job.
They're doing outstanding.
And our report is completed, and we always get very high grades on it, and I think we just can continue the work. I would like to thank all the DPW people here tonight, but I guess we can't do that. So,
Our DPW
I
does
will
a
pass
great
that
job.
on.
So make the motion, Mike.
make a
Accept the
motion.
report.
I make a motion that we approve this report.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept this report. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. I think the entire board is sending a resounding good job. Keep it up to the DPW.
I think they were scared, that's why I didn't show them.
As President Vanderstel alluded to, there's a lot of pinch hitting going on tonight. Everybody must be on spring break. I'm sorry. You
No,
ready to
that-
move on?
No, that's okay. I think you're right, and I think it's rightly so that
I
people
was
think they're
going to
good.
move on. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
May I?
Yes.
The next item on your agenda is the consideration of the village's insurance renewal. This is an annual activity. Obviously, we have an April 1 term. Insurance this year for all of our premiums. So this is workers' compensation, general liability, employment liability, police officer liability, automobile liability, automobile damage, village building damage, everything. All of our coverage is combined together in a number of companies. $230,149. This year, most of the heavy hitter stuff, that is the liability insurance and damage insurance and workers' compensation, are all underwritten through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Insurance Mutual, and has been for decades. This year, interestingly, we had, Finance Director Bailey and I had a number of conversations with another agency firm that was trying to compare and trying to bring us quotes to compete. And I think that ultimately they determined that they just couldn't find one that compared in terms of coverage. So the interesting thing about the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance is that it's owned by municipalities. Its coverage is designed by municipalities for municipalities. So we are an owner and have a role in how our coverage is defined. And one of the, if you will, mantras, or one of the things we hear continuously from the league is, you're covered. Anything we do as a municipality, any action you take as a village board, we are covered. And there is protection for us. So we continue to experience improvement in our workers' compensation again, so we have a reduction in that rate, which is of course all set by the state. So nonetheless, the insurance is recommended for the upcoming term, $230,149 from League of Wisconsin Municipalities and Mutual Insurance and a variety of other carriers.
I move that we approve the recommendation by the administration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item, we have a consideration of a motion to approve a contract with Natural Solutions for playground chip replacement at Nixon Park in the amount of $19,825.
You know, I was looking in for another organization with regard to that, and every vendor that was selling equipment or play toys, or, you know, outside equipment, said, don't do bark, don't do that stuff. Get the, you know, the permanent base on this area, because it's gonna be more expensive up front, but it lasts forever. It's gonna last twice as long, and you're not gonna be paying that more, and it's safer.
What are you talking about?
What's permanent?
Grass?
It's a cushiony rubber type
It's a
stuff.
cus- yeah.
The rubber,
What's
the
wrong
rubber.
with just
Recycled tires.
I was gonna say, the tire things, the
Well,
shredded
grass
ones, I've
will
seen a
stay,
lot of
but one
parks
is
using
on
now.
top.
And it just seems that the people that are pushing at the equipment are saying that, yeah, you can go that way, it's less expensive using the bark and that, but in the long run, it's cheaper to go with the rubber-based, and it's gonna last longer. Not forever, nothing lasts forever except Dick.
Doesn't.
Yeah,
Has
and he ain't lasting very long either.
Oh, let's
I
hope
agree
that's
with
not
what
true.
you're saying. I
Keep
just
on
wanna know if
kicking.
anybody's done a study on the toxins that rubber has in it.
Yeah, that's always been the other side of that equation.
We ask people not to eat it.
That doesn't mean they're not
Oh,
gonna.
what's wrong with just grass?
It don't stay grass.
It turns in mud.
Yeah.
You don't
And
want
it
just
all
grass.
turns to mud and the kids run in a hole
And then
there.
they get dirty. Kids should get dirty.
The other thing is that you, with the bark, the way we do this, you get fall protection as well.
You gotta ask the state too,
Gotta
they
do it for
got their own rules too.
There's also some stuff that, I forget what the name of it was, that I sent it to you, David, the stuff they say put around trees, that, it's
Oh,
like
like a rubber mat.
a rubber
almost,
mash
yeah.
type stuff that allows the water to go through and everything, nothing stands up on it, and it's pretty new. But I was, when I talked to 3 or 4 different companies that provided this, they all had the same recommendation on that, and I guess they're not in the bark business or something.
To go to the rubber shredder.
Go to the rubber shred.
Well, and that's what we're doing here. This is.
This is bark.
Oh, it is
This is
bark.
natural
Yeah,
bark.
this is bark.
Sorry, I thought it was the rubber shredded.
No,
I'm sorry.
this is
But it's
natural
more
bark.
expensive up front, but in the long run, it's better.
That's what
all
we'd
I
like
know.
Curious to see how much they fill it.
Yeah.
I mean, how.
Well, I mean, it's up to the board. I mean, you want to recommend that they get the,
Maybe we should get a bid on it.
I think Mike's right. I think we should get a bid on it. My question is, how long is it gonna take to get the bid on that and then approve it? Cause spring's here
yeah,
and the kids are gonna start playing
Dave would have to answer on that.
and it's gonna be a mud hole if
That's
we
what I
don't get
wanted to
something
know.
done quick.
The goal was to get Nixon Park done before the end of May. And
Okay.
it would, I suspect it would be awfully tight to try and rebid it and get it in. We can certainly try. But the goal was to get Nixon Park in before May, so that it's in before Splash Pad opens and
Right.
The beer
Beer garden opens rather, and that all starts to happen. But
How about, if we were to, go forward with it,
You're correct.
but at the
We
same
could do
time,
options for
Dave,
next
could you maybe come up with a test area? Like looking forward to next year on areas when we might have to bring other bark, because we have so many parks where maybe you might say, you know what, let's try this here.
We didn't have any rubber in one of them in Hartridge, I thought had a rubber by it. One
That's
with
the
the
school.
baseball diamond.
School.
No, I'm not talking the school.
Castle Park?
Yeah.
Pembroke.
Pembroke?
I thought one of them did.
Maybe we don't need a test, just a bid.
yeah,
I was just suggesting.
we can, the other note that I will make is that we were hoping to do another park this summer, probably Castle Park. We were hoping to do another park this summer. We could look into getting both prices and see how it goes and ask the park board if it has opinion.
Sure.
We
Okay.
can look at Pembroke and see how that's lasting. I
Okay.
didn't remember that Pembroke had rubber.
All right. Yeah, let's look into that. How's
Yeah, let's
Pembroke lasting? When was it put in? And
Right.
then if we could get bids for double bids on both for
Sure.
Castle, and then tonight, if the board would allow, we could move forward with Nixon unless, Jeff would bring up a good point. I mean, it's Trustee Hanson, I'm sorry. But that, I mean, if it's gotta get done, it's gotta get done, and it's not like those
Right.
bark chips last that long, so they'll be coming around for it again. And we've done such a great job with building up Nixon, we might as well keep it looking as perfect as we can. So. I'll make a motion to do that, all those, with those stipulations.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward with the bark chips at Nixon Park. Have the administrator look into when the rubberized matting type, foundation under the play area was put in at Pembroke, and to get double bids for both different types of surfaces for, Castle Park.
Right.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the designation of the Waukesha Freeman as the village's official newspaper.
Yes.
Do we have any? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead,
Take the
Dave.
floor.
I was just gonna, the only background I had given on this is that, as a reminder, the village isn't required to have an official newspaper. But by having, the Freeman designated as the paper, that is the one that theoretically our residents know and that we, know that we're using for any of our advertising, so. But Trustee Hanson asked
I
for
just
this.
have a problem with the Freeman, with all newspapers right now, actually. The Journal, the Freeman, Lake Country Now. I think they've gotten to a point where they're not printing the truth anymore. They're printing sensationalized headlines, with sensationalized reporting, to get people to read. And in some instances, you've got to get all the way down to the last paragraph before they tell you what really happened, or something similar to what really happened. I don't think that Hartland, being the village that we are, we're respected. Our citizens are all, you know how I feel about it. We get the best. We get the best citizens. We get the best of everything here. You can't get better than Hartland. So why should we settle for something less than the best? And right now, there isn't a paper out there that, and this comes from personal experience. They did it to me with my establishment. They did it to one of the finest citizens we've got in Hartland. I just don't think that, they're deserving of us. I can't read the paper anymore because I can't believe a thing that they print. I really can't. And like I said before, I won't line my bird cage with it because I don't even want my bird reading it. It's ridiculous. It really is absolutely ridiculous. And that comes from personal experience with them printing things that are absolutely not true. So I don't think we should have them as official paper. I think we're better than that.
I hear you. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily harbor the exact same opinion, but I do hear you. I am hearing you.
According to the guidelines, can we use our website as the official posting for our notices and things, or are we still required to have it in a newspaper?
Public hearing notices, for example, and other things that require those kinds of a notification must be in a newspaper.
Okay.
There was some talk of changing that in the recent past, but it did not get anywhere.
I know the league argued about it, but they never did change it then, huh?
No.
Well, you know, we got the Freeman in there because people a year ago wanted more information.
I was all for it, and I know, you know, I'm gonna stress that when we're up here, we each have our own opinions. Jeff and I are friends. I'm gonna say it right out, so I don't want, just because we're on the different side of something, and
No.
obviously the story in the Freeman wasn't a fun one, but I've seen a lot that are. I've seen a lot that
It wasn't a
are
fact.
good when we had our Ecos board and they came, and it doesn't necessarily matter what the articles are, because one of the biggest things for me is whether they're the official paper or not, it's not gonna change whether or not they're gonna be able to print it. I do understand what you're saying on not having them. When we designate an official paper, what it does is being on the other side, not being in this seat and not being involved with my local government. For the regular citizen out there that doesn't have the time to spend as much time as we all spend looking into things, they don't know where to turn. And Lake Country now just went down to one issue a week. It's not even 2 issues anymore, and it's controlled by the Milwaukee Journal. Where there used to be almost no news in Hartland, people didn't know what was going on. Now we're in there almost every day. Not just for, you know, this story or that story, but I mean, they have things on if there's going to be an event. They have things on different accidents. They have times where we've saved a life pulling a body out of a car and saving someone. They've had many different things, and I just, I feel that I like the people being informed, and I don't necessarily share the sentiment that they're always putting out bad stories, but I do think that, I still believe that we've made one place where people can go and look, and Hartland gets more coverage, and I believe our citizens deserve that also. I do agree with you. If someone ever prints a lie, no one needs that. But I believe that our citizens deserve that, and when we did it, I mean, I had brought it up because I thought it was a good idea, and I still do, but that doesn't mean the whole board has to echo what I believe. I had a reason.
My problem was, and you're gonna have news and people are reporters, my problem is that report we got on the fire department, that's baloney. That's what he was told to come back to the board before he published it. Now here when a Freeman got it before I even got the book.
That's not.
You know, that was terrible. All of a sudden I read in the Freeman and then the following night I get a book showing all this stuff. And that shouldn't have been. He was supposed to come back to the board, and that ticked off a lot of people. He was supposed to come back and go over with what he found, not print that was a bunch of garbage. I think that
Like I say, sometimes this job is not fun at all, and sitting here right now is not fun at all. I can't take one article this is for me, and not have.
no, that's my.
I can explain my reasons for doing it. It's, you know,
No, I haven't got any problem, but that should not have been in there.
But-
on the front page, basically.
I
Is it
hear
in the
you.
Journal or the Freeman?
The Freeman, well, the Journal don't have anything in it. Really.
Yeah, because we had the official paper of the Reporter before I was on the board,
Yeah.
but the Reporter is no longer in existence. It's the
Yeah.
Journal.
We did not
and they
have any official paper.
Yes, we did. We had
We
the
had
Lake
this
Country
Lake
Reporter
County
for a bit.
We never had
We
an
used
official
it, but
paper.
it was not an official, it wasn't designated the official paper. We used it usually.
Then we must have
Well,
said
they
we
have
did,
a lot
because
of-
I have the record that we did at one point.
Yeah, that
No,
was.
it was never the official
just
paper.
saying.
That's
That
why
was
we
the,
made
that
it.
was
Hold
the
on.
official paper. The Lake County Reporter was the official paper.
We saw the bids that went, the thing that went out, the thing, years ago. But anyways,
Yeah.
it's, no longer, and I am in agreement with Jeff of that the Freeman it is what it is. The news, everyone knows the news is good, the news is bad, and sometimes you get it your way, sometimes you get it the other way. that story. I just thought the headline was horrible, but it's, still it is what it is, and people have to get the information, and if some people choose not to read it, that's one thing, but there's still a lot of people that do, and
But
we
they're
need
not
to.
getting, they're
We
getting
need to get it.
misinformation.
But they'll get misinformation no matter what.
I just,
Jeff, when
I
we had
state
the
my
Lake
case.
Country Reporter,
What?
we quipped about it being the Lake Country Distorter.
Yeah, the distorter, that was its nickname for
I
forever.
mean, you know,
Now, as opposed to turning this into a slam fest on any organization, I think it's best that if we're gonna make a motion on something, we do. And I'm sorry to stop you, I just don't wanna
Yeah.
turn it into the Hartland Board as the one sitting up there slamming any organization. If we're saying we don't like it if someone is lambasting us or someone in our village or a department or any group of people, I don't want us, you know, I don't want us to be the ones that go and get in the mud with them. I wanna walk out of here without taking a shower, so
Do
that's.
we have to
if we're
have
gonna
an
make-
official
well,
paper, or can we just?
We do not have to have
We don't have
an
to have an
official-
official paper, but we can post all the things we have to in
paper.
a paper. So what I would do is that we do not, as a village, do not have an official paper, although we will announce where we're gonna post our listings, legal listings that are necessary.
we only have one choice really, the Freeman, unless we have nothing. And I think having the Freeman at least tells people where to go. That's my opinion.
So is that a motion?
It was.
You made, can you do that again then, because you did not? Can you say it by saying you're making the motion, just so that we have it for the record?
I make the motion that, as the village, you do not have an official newspaper, and that we will announce where we are going to post our legal requirements and what news provider.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Just a quick question. How would we notify of where we're gonna put, how do you notify people of where the legal stuff is gonna go? Is that on a weekly basis, monthly, or how do we do that?
We just have to send it to some publication that gets published in
I
Hartland.
understand that, but how do we do we notify?
You
the
won't
citizen?
anymore. You'd have to look at two if it went through.
Okay. I just didn't understand that. I just needed clarification.
Just over a year ago, well, I'm gonna make my statement here. 2.5 years ago, I wasn't in this seat. I was virtually unknown in Hartland. I raised my kids and did try to pay attention to what was going on in Hartland. There was a piece of land by my property known as the Old Sluggers Development. I remember even typing in Old Sluggers Development, big piece of land on East Capitol Drive, typing it in, looking for it. This is on the internet. Nothing. It wasn't until somebody came to my door in October, maybe even November. It was October, I think, knocking on my door asking for a signature, showing me what the development was that was going in on this piece of land. Now, I had tried over and over and over again. My family with my kids had talked about what's going in there. I think it's going to be apartments. We didn't know what was going on. It turned out that they had a listening session back in July. This is going back to 2016. They had a listening session at Town Bank back in July, and I had missed it. I ended up obviously getting elected and coming here, and we talked about it because people over Hartland said, we don't know where to even look for information. And we talked about it, as a board. And I have heard so many people that have said to myself, and I've heard from some other trustees where people are like, hey, we actually know what's going on in Hartland again. I made that decision for that reason. I had called the Waukesha Freeman to say, what's going on? And they're like, well, yeah, if we're your official paper, we're gonna, have reporters there. I thought it was appropriate that people knew more about what was going on in Hartland. That was my reason for that, my decision. It was the reason that we went to the board, and at that time, we thought it was a good thing. I know some people may think because of one article that Hartland should have less stories in the news.
No, I don't
Hold
mean
on,
that
no,
way.
I'm
sorry.
making my statement. I beg of this board to not go in that direction. It will hurt the businesses in more ways than you can fathom. We are going in the right direction, and I beg you to go that direction that we've been going. I do understand, and I am deeply troubled by the story that we're referencing. However, I do not believe that that publication, as in its entirety, is a reflection only of that. And that is, I beg of you not to get rid of the paper as an official paper. We deserve to have an official paper that has people with more eyes on Hartland, because people deserve to know about what's going on in Hartland, especially people that are in Waukesha County but don't live in Hartland, so they come and spend their money here at our businesses, come and enjoy the amenities we have, and continue to see how wonderful and perfect, as Trustee Hansen alluded to, how perfect this village is.
Well,
That's
I'm not
my statement.
I'm not criticizing the Freeman, I'm
I'm-
criticizing how that was handled.
And
That's,
I'm making a statement based on the fact that there's a motion to
Yeah.
eliminate it as our official
Well,
paper.
this
I've
was
made my
discussion,
statement.
so, yeah.
Any other discussion?
That doesn't mean we won't use it though. And if people wanna know what's going on in town, they can still Google
he
our
comes.
website or go on our website or the Chambers or Palmer's website, correct?
Sure, they can sit and go on websites all day long.
Okay.
yeah,
They can spend the whole day going on them. And in 2 years, they'll come and say, we don't know what's going on in our village because nothing's happening. Absolutely.
that's right though, we went to the Freeman
Any,
because,
anybody that wants to speak for public comments on this item on the agenda?
Fire Chief Dave Dean, and the nice thing, I appreciate the conversation that's being taken. The nice thing about this community and the citizens of this community, the headline was a black eye for our village. It was a double black eye for the fire department. It was another kick for me. But the citizens in this village and the community and the people that really know what's going on have outpoured their support to the fire department and outpoured their support to the community and this village, and has been nothing but making us stronger. And as much as I appreciate the opportunity or your discussion on it, you know what? I roll with the punches. I didn't get these broad shoulders for just football. So, again, the citizens, I agree, the papers are tough. It's hard to read them sometimes, but the outpouring and the people that really know what's going on in this village read through the headlines and have supported our department and myself. So, just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other discussion? It has been moved and seconded, discussion's done on eliminating having any official newspaper. All in favor?
you know, roll call, I think you better.
Okay, all in favor by roll call.
Trustee Anson?
We're voting on eliminated official paper, right? Aye.
Trustee Duro?
Nay.
Trustee Meyers?
Yes.
Trustee Landwehr?
Nay.
Trustee Swenson?
Nay.
Trustee Walshiger? Nay. President Vanderstel?
Nay,
Nays have it.
that motion does not pass. We still have an official newspaper in Hartland. I will stress when it's something high stress like this, and I'm gonna say this loud and clear. I think this entire board does, and I know I myself do, and I think that this village supports. I support this fire chief. This village supports this fire chief. I agree with the fire chief. Any article, anything that we've gone through only makes us stronger. That's what we do as a people. The fire department in Hartland has watched buildings burn down and watched people lose their businesses for over 125 years, and the entire village has come together to rise up and make it stronger. I'm lucky just to be a part of this community and to be part of all of this, including the fire department and everything else Hartland has to offer. We get through it, we stay strong, and we move forward. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to transfer a formerly surplus DPW pickup truck and transfer of a police department squad to the fire department for use as rapid fire response and EMT response vehicles.
All right, now you're talking my language. Fire Chief Dave
go,
Dean,
Chief.
and I am excited. You know that our fire department loves to be on the leading edge of technology. We love to be out there in front of others. Nationwide, we started with our aerosol extinguishers that each police officer, each car carries. We've got them at the fire station. We've saved thousands and thousands of dollars worth of property and unknown how many lives with this system. It was new. We took it on. It's worked out great for us. So, since there's some vehicles that are in surplus that can be extremely useful for the fire department. One is a pickup truck from the DPW. Even though it's outlived its life at the DPW, we can reuse it, refurbish it, and use it for as you saw in the picture and read the memo, a ultra high pressure fast attack extinguishment vehicle, which would mean our officer that's in charge at the fire department would have that take home with them. It would have a 250-gallon water tank on it, 200 feet of hose, and that vehicle could respond directly to the incident that's on scene, and what we call a transitional fire attack, where we immediately start to extinguish the fire from outside the building. Obviously, that if we can reach it, we still follow all NFPA rules, and create, not only say if this room was on fire in here, they could prop this door, blow this their gallonage in there, and being an ultra high pressure pump, it makes the water last 8 times longer. So 150 gallons would be 8 times that for the mathematicians and you. And it's really exciting technology. And then not only say they prop this door to start extinguishing the fire, it also creates a chimney, which we call transitional fire attack, where the heat and smoke would generate out this door then, rather than maybe spreading to other parts of the building. It can be extremely useful in house fires, and it can be extremely useful to get on the scene quickly of any motor vehicle accident that may involve a fire with people trapped. So I'm excited about it. I think you can probably tell that. It's a pretty cool concept, and the vehicle would get retrofitted with that gas-powered ultra-high pressure system with a donation from the Hartland Firefighters Association. They would pay for the pump and the unit. I would have to drive it west a little bit and hopefully not get lost this time. And they'd install it while they take me to lunch, and then I would drive it back. But just a great use of, we're very fortunate to have these vehicles available to us, and a great use to reuse this vehicle in another purpose, and hopefully save lots of lives and property. The other one is the squad car. We had obtained one 6 years ago, used it for our EMS response vehicle. Worked out great. We get someone on scene immediately. Once they get the call, they respond direct. And that vehicle needed a lot of work, so the PD had one that outused their usefulness, and we were able to hopefully transition that into a first response vehicle. So, sorry, I know it's late. I'm going on and on, but I'm enthused about it. I'm excited about it.
I do have a nice question. I just wanted to ask, so the rapid response vehicle, the first one you spoke about,
Yes.
even though the on-call officer that would have that vehicle, just so, and I'm asking this for the citizens,
Sure, you
that does not change, everything that we've done to go up to a paramedic level service, that does not change the amount of people that are at the firehouse. They're still well protected when it comes to their ambulance and their paramedics coming for them. This would be the on-call officer that would take that so that they can respond to a fire situation in a rapid hurry.
Correct, you bet.
Correct.
We're still going to have the number of people that respond directly to the station to
Yep.
get the equipment, and the people that stay at the station, our paramedics are there 24/7.
Yep.
This would be an additional vehicle that might sit in my driveway, might sit in one of the other chief's driveways, or a captain, or the duty officer that's on scene, and can quickly get there.
Yep.
You know, it's half the time versus responding from home to the station,
And then,
getting the truck, then going to the scene. They're going to be able to respond directly with fast attack, fast
Yep,
fire attack.
right.
So it's
That's
kind of
awesome.
a neat. It's a new concept. There's 3 in the state right now that are using it that I'm aware of: Ripon, Middleton, and we would be the 3rd.
Hartland's always leading the way.
Hey, we like to be out front.
So, I just have a question, and I don't know trucks and none of this stuff excites me because it's a vehicle. But that being said, this, the truck, didn't the DPW want to get rid of it because it had so many repairs that had to be done, or?
Nope, that one was the dump truck. They were gonna get rid of the Peterbilt dump truck that ran into a lot of problems with them. This one I did some research on with DPW employees, talked with the mechanics down there, and they agreed that this, for their use, using it, constantly, every day, start, stop, around, and putting on lots and lots of miles, outlived their usefulness for it, but looks like it'll be fine. We might have to throw some tires on it eventually, but for our purposes, it would be good. And we probably could even, we'll probably get quite a few years out of it.
Chief?
How,
Oh.
Oh, did you have another one?
hold it, did you have more, Donna?
She had another question.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. The floor's yours.
No, I forgot my other question. Gosh, they confused me. Never
Want to know
mind,
if
go
we
ahead.
could water flowers downtown? We can.
No, that's not what I was gonna
Okay,
ask.
all right.
Does it have to be specially outfitted to hold that amount of water?
It does not. I checked the GVW and checked with the manufacturer, so we are safe because it's a heavy-duty F-250,
Oh,
so it's
okay.
already got the extra springs in
Okay,
it.
all right,
Yes, very good. We went over the front axle as well.
okay.
Chief, how do you, is it just the responding officer, or how do you decide whether to use the canister that you throw in or this? I assume you don't do both.
Sure, we could do both. We could, depending on who gets their.
doesn't work.
Sure. Depending on the location of the fire itself, for instance, the canister wouldn't work in a automobile car fire accident where maybe somebody was trapped inside the vehicle. It wouldn't work because it's not confined into the cubic feet that it would take care of. The aerosol would work outstanding in any one of our apartment buildings. They're, second floor, third floor, condo units. Our police officers are Johnny on the spot, and they are in there quick and can deploy that and, say Sunny Slope or 550 Cottonwood or 357, any of the elderly homes that we have, the assisted living homes, that type of situation, the aerosol is phenomenal. But there is a chance that we could use it. We could use them both.
Okay.
I remember my question. So you have another truck though that you could get rid of, that you could, if you're replacing with the police one?
The police squad, yes, the old police squad is being, actually Merton is trying it out right now and may write us an offer on it because they saw that how well it worked here in Hartland and other communities where that EMT gets direct to, provide emergency care rather than the whole crew responding on the ambulance. They get someone there quick. And that car would be sold. The pickup truck would be in addition to our fleet.
Right. But the other one, we have another truck,
And we have another grass truck as well, which is not an ultra-high pressure pump. That one is, volume rather than high pressure.
I can add too. With, we call it 88 is the vehicle that we have now. It's a smaller vehicle. It's very hard for, let's say, Jim and I to get in and out of it. If we do have to use it, and right now we do have to use it once in a while when we show up at the station, it's actually extremely difficult to get in and out of when you're geared up, when you've got
Are you talking about the
everything on.
Impala or?
Yeah, the Impala. It's, with having the Explorer available to the fire department, not only is it a little bit bigger vehicle that we can get in and out of safer, faster, easier, you've also got a lot of extra space in the back to store emergency life-saving equipment. That would be a great asset to have as, an extra vehicle. Whereas the Impala, like I said, to get in and out of it, to get the equipment out of it, it is just that much more difficult. And, I've seen now firsthand, seconds matter in all sorts of situations that we go to. Whether it be a car fire, house fire, those few minutes can make the difference in somebody's life. So both vehicles are a great asset to the fire department. The pickup truck being reused is phenomenal. that's gonna be amazing, especially, for car fires, for accidents. I can't tell you how much time it would save getting to that, to actually save somebody's life if that car's on fire, because they go up quick.
Yep. 22 gallons of gas in the back, it can get quite dicey.
Oh, not only that, but we were burning cars the other night for practice. You'd be amazed what an airbag will do. The struts from the cars explode and eject from the vehicles.
Right.
And can kill you.
Right.
There's so many different things in that vehicle that will explode and injure or kill you, that getting there quick and putting it out quick is vital.
Sure.
Just to be clear, Trustee Hansen, I might have misled you and I in our talks around the firehouse. The SUV doesn't come until next year.
Oh, next
Next
year?
year or the year after, yeah.
Okay.
The Impala, unfortunately, are gonna have to cram in there again because it's an Impala for an Impala. But the rapid response truck will be much roomier for you. And it'll fit in the firehouse, Trustee Landwehr, yes, yes. Well, I don't know, I might try that yet.
Any other
Just
discussion? I'll make the motion. We authorize the transfer of the former surplus DPW pickup truck and transfer of the police department squad to the fire department for use as rapid fire response and EMT response vehicles.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you guys both. And boys.
Thank you, and we'll keep you abreast of how it goes.
Thanks, Chief. Next item, consideration of actions related to a village sponsorship of the annual Chamber of Commerce Kudos Awards Dinner.
Last item here, this is an item that's coming from Finance Director Bailey. He is the village's representative to the Chamber Board. Of course, every year the village sponsors the village board's attendance and appropriate staff attendance at the Kudos event. One time in the past, we did a sponsorship when the Recreation Department was being recognized, and we used it as an opportunity to sort of market, if you will, the Recreation Department. The question is this year whether the village board has any interest in doing any kind of a sponsorship above and beyond our normal acquisition of, if you will, places at the table.
And I'd like to add to that, because Ryan did call me on this and asked me to go over this with everyone.
Good, okay.
We also have, Dave Felkner is, on behalf of the Public Works Department, he's gonna be, nominee for Helping Hands Award. And, GPW's, credited with helping improve the holiday train and other chamber events. And as you said, we did the silver sponsorship, and that was a $500 donation. And also, just so we know, the Hartland Chamber does donate to the Hartland Hometown Celebration every year. So, and with our sponsorship, if we do the silver, as you all saw on the back of the sheet, there are other things that come with, you know, you get things on the website and newsletters and stuff, so you do get some other things, but I think our DPW, I mean, without them, we wouldn't have a village with roads or anything. I mean, they keep us running. So it'd be nice to give them some type of sponsorship for this.
Well, I think it's good that we go to those things, because
Well,
regardless.
this isn't just a go to it.
No,
We're
I
going,
mean-
but this is if we want to do a sponsorship.
Yeah, no, I know that, but it's.
But yeah,
nice-
no, you
It's
are.
nice to get
Sorry
involved
for
in that,
interrupting,
you
but
know.
you're right.
I think it's nice to.
I had, I'm gonna make the motion that we do this, and I'll say why in a second. Before we get too much discussion in, I wanna make the motion. I'll make the motion, that we do the sponsorship. Typically, we've just gotten the table. There has been one time in the past. If this gets seconded, I'll explain my point in a second.
Is that a silver sponsorship?
Oh, what's the other ones? I don't know.
Which level?
Look on the back there. Here.
Okay.
So there's silver at 500, there's gold at 1,000, there's platinum, I think they've got a platinum, but there's platinum at 2,500.
What's the lowest amount?
Bronze is the lowest at 300.
Let's stay silver.
Okay, we'll go with silver. Platinum's a little outside of my price range as a taxpayer, but we'll go with silver. My motion is for a silver sponsorship. I will give my comments on why in a second. I would typically not be.
I'll second your
that.
motion.
It's been moved and seconded.
Get it over.
Discussion. One thing I just want, I'll go fast, Dick. I want to say that there has been some,
Oh, that's
in the past, there has been some, the Chamber of Commerce does a lot for the village of Hartland, the businesses in the village of Hartland, and a lot of different organizations in Hartland. The Chamber does a lot, and they've felt, whether it's true or not, it seems that there has been some lack of recognition in the past. The Chamber brought the holiday train here. Now, even though the village is, because it's gotten so big because of the Chamber's hard work on the front end, the village has gotten to work together, and now the village is really carrying the torch on that, and the Chamber is helping. But for a long time, the Chamber felt like that was one event in particular where they did the footwork on it, laid the foundation, and they felt like they didn't really get a lot of the credit. You know, the train comes in and then say, send up your elected official, and you know, it's always easy to be the elected official that just goes up there, and then you have someone else that worked on it for 12 months. And I speak from experience with that. But it's proper to give recognition where recognition is due. So part of the reason that I'm doing this is not taking away anything from the Chamber of Commerce, but is also saying I hope that that hatchet, with this silver hatchet, is buried. And I will send an email, if this ends up going through, to the president of the Chamber saying that, to me anyways, this hatchet is buried. I have worked very hard for a very long time. I've heard about it for a very long time since I've been elected, that there's just been a lot of lack of recognition. Hopefully this recognition puts that there. That's my reason.
I'm gonna just say for the chamber itself, I don't believe it's lack of recognition. I believe it's lack of everybody working together as a unity in one in the village, and just showing this year for the train, amazing on what a difference when everybody works together on how smooth that process worked and how incredible that was. Yes, the chamber is responsible for bringing that train in, but it takes the village to do everything. And I think that's what it's more about, is everyone working together. It shouldn't be so difficult to make everything happen in a community. And I think that has greatly improved just recently,
Absolutely.
so.
It takes a whole community, and I guess what I was saying is if they carried all that weight on their shoulders for some years. they
Well,
wouldn't
it's
necessarily-
all different programs in the village, so it's not just the chamber, it's the bid feels, that they're in one little
Oh,
separate
no,
area.
I'm only
It's
going off of what I
everything.
heard, so I was just saying
So-
why mine was mine. That's just what I heard.
Right, I get that, and I'm acknowledging it, I'm just telling you from being active in the community for as long as I have, and that's what I think it's more about, is that it's everyone working together, and this past year is the perfect,
When you make a
Scenario.
difference, together we make it happen.
that's right.
We've got more people and more
Teamwork
things
makes the
involved,
dream
so-
work.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so,
You do.
I do?
you do.
Oh, I do have a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
any
got a
other
second from-
discussion?
I have a couple of them, actually.
I'm very,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
got 6 seconds and a motion, so are we, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, this is official business, I'm kidding. It's been moved and seconded, we've done the discussion. Does anybody have anything to add in before we vote? All in favor of the silver sponsorship of the kudos dinner? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. At this time, we have announcements. Chief
I'll make it quick.
of the fire department in the
Make it
great
quick.
village of.
You know I don't like talking in public, so I'll do quick. Wanted to thank each and every one, the citizens. We had our fundraiser on Saturday evening, and it was jam-packed. It was a huge success. It was phenomenal. It was fun. It was great. It was great camaraderie, and it was really, really nice to see everybody out. It was a really nice day, so it went very well. And thank you to everyone that attended and had
It's a great
fun,
event.
and hopefully you danced a lot. It was good. My second, just wanted to, not want to reopen the discussion with your alleyway, but just wanted to add my 2 cents as the fire chief. That alley has always been worrisome for me with the garbage trucks that go down that alley and the weight that they put on, and with the foundations, the buildings and everything right there. If I may just throw out a outside-the-box suggestion, we're going to be redoing that bridge there. Maybe the discussion could happen that the dumpsters for those businesses get moved over that bridge into the parking area in the municipal lot on the other side of the river. Would avoid that garbage truck driving down the Ice Age Trail and backing out onto Capitol Drive blindly. They do great. They're wonderful. I've watched them in action. They do it early in the morning. But I just don't like the thought, as the fire chief, it's worried me for years, of car traffic is not as bad, but large trucks that back out of there blindly, and it's a designated walk path for the Ice Age Trail. Just something that possibly could be brought up in the discussions of the dumpsters on that side of the river. You're making the bridge wider anyway, and it would avoid the problem of the asphalt and the concrete and the breaking up. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. What do I know?
Just to respond to that, that will be part of the discussion the administrator is having, because we're planning on making that
Well,
wider.
see,
to
I'm not
test
coming up
the-
with anything new.
No, you're just really smart. You're ahead of it.
Wow, all right then. I'm leaving with
But we
that.
will keep you posted on that,
All right.
as well as discussions progress.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, police has nothing. Not that they have nothing, they just don't have anything that they have to report. We love our police department. We do, we really do. They do a fantastic job. They just don't have any news on this sequence. I have a little bit of news. We have a special guest here today, Sophie. If you want to, you can come out and wave back at the camera. Okay, come on. You don't have to, though. I don't want you feeling shy, but you can just come right out here, and then you can just wave at the camera.
Can we adjourn, and then she could motion it?
Sophie is here, and, yeah, absolutely. Sophie is here, and what we will do is, once the meeting's adjourned, we're gonna let Sophie gavel us out, okay? So if you wanna just stay there for a minute, but we have to finish with announcements, I'll tell you when to hit it, okay? So you can just stay right there, but Sophie is here on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. So our gentleman behind the camera, Ben, who does a fantastic job, has brought his daughter, and she drew a nice picture of the president. It's beautiful, it's wonderful. She even has the hair flip on there. It's great. It really is great. You did a fantastic job. Thank you for coming, and I hope that you learned something. I'm sure you're gonna remember this for the rest of your life. I kid. You'll remember coming to work with Dad, though. Any other announcements?
The election?
I was gonna say, Darlene, is there anything to announce for your elections, absentee balloting, et cetera?
Absentee balloting continues through Friday at 5 p.m. Come on in if you need to absentee. The election is Tuesday. Everything will be here. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Any others? Okay. Yeah.
All right, I motion we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. When you hear everybody say aye, then you hit it, okay? Only, once you hear them all say it. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. This meeting has been adjourned. Good job.